Hi from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next hour, President Emmanuel Macron of France to be the chief guest for India's 75th Republic Day celebrations on 26 January. Two Indian Navy warships conduct anti-piracy patrols in the Gulf of Aden as attacks on commercial ships in the region threaten global economy. UN Security Council tries to forge a consensus on the text of a Gaza resolution before a vote. President Putin of Russia speaks to Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas. And a Pakistan court grants bail to the country's former Prime Minister Imran Khan in a case related to an alleged leak of state secrets. Khan files a nomination for 2024 national election. President Emmanuel Macron of France will visit India next month to attend the country's 75th Republic Day celebrations as its chief guest. India and France share a high degree of convergence on a range of regional and global issues. 2023 is being celebrated as the 25th anniversary of the India-France strategic partnership. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi was the guest of honor at the Bastille Day parade in Paris in July this year. President Macron visited India for the G20 summit in New Delhi in September this year. And President Macron thanked Prime Minister Modi for his invitation to be the chief guest at India's 75th Republic Day celebrations. Macron posted a message on X, and I quote, "Thank you for your invitation, my dear friend Narendra Modi. India, on your Republic Day, I'll be here to celebrate with you," unquote. And DD India's Ross Cullen has more from Paris. Take a listen.
The trip was seen as so successful by Narendra Modi that he has extended this invitation to the French president to attend a Republic Day in just over a month's time at the end of January in India, to be the guest of honor there, just as Narendra Modi was the guest of honor here. And we have had that confirmation today, Friday, from the Élysée Palace, the French presidency, that Emmanuel Macron has accepted that invitation from Narendra Modi. So he will be heading to India just a few months after his most recent visit, which was for the G20 summits on the 9th and 10th of September, already showing that they are booking these trips in ahead. They want to get that confirmation. They want to show that these trips and these regular conversations between the two men who call each other my friend or my dear friend, Mr. Modi and Mr. Macron, that relationship continues to build. The trip from Narendra Modi here to France, he was awarded the Legion of Honor, France's top Order of Merit, which was criticised by some French MPs. But apart from that, the trip went so well that they really do believe they are building on this. And if we look at the France-India relationship as a whole, there are so many sectors in which Delhi and Paris work together. From business, there are Indian companies like Tata and Mahindra here in France. There are French companies like L'Oréal or Danone or Total operating in India. France has a plan to try to welcome up to 30,000 Indian students here in France in the next 7 years. Also aviation, worth mentioning that this year, the 2023 Paris Air Show, the biggest ever aircraft order was placed, and that was from Indigo, an Indian company, ordering 500 Airbus planes, a pan-European company, but Airbus is headquartered here in France. And also the Indo-Pacific. France sees the Indian Ocean as a domestic arena, with the islands of Réunion, Mayotte and other islands as well. It has 1.5 million citizens in the Indian and Pacific Oceans, and so that whole area is a key geopolitical influence for France and, of course, for India. And that will be a topic which will be touched on in their talks in January in Delhi when Emmanuel Macron makes his trip there.
And shifting focus to West Asia now, the US launched Operation Prosperity Guardian 2 days ago to carry out joint patrols in the Red Sea waters near Yemen. The crisis has grown out of the war between Israel and Hamas. The Iran-backed Houthis have been targeting commercial shipping lanes in the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden. India says it's monitoring the situation very closely. Meanwhile, Indian Navy warships are rendering assistance to the mariners at sea as a first responder in the region.
The US says that at least 20 countries have agreed to participate in a new coalition for safeguarding commercial traffic in the Red Sea from attacks by Yemen's Houthis. A US official calls it a coalition of the willing. Each country will contribute what it can. The Houthis have stepped up their Red Sea attacks, threatening to target all ships heading to Israel and warning ship companies against dealing with Israeli ports. The attacks have disrupted a key trade route that links Europe and North America with Asia via the Suez Canal. The Houthi attacks have caused container shipping costs to rise sharply as companies seek to ship their goods via alternative, often longer routes. The hostilities have put a chokehold on ship passages through the Suez Canal, which handles about 12% of worldwide trade. Restrictions on the Panama Canal following drought have made the situation worse for commercial shipping companies. The spokesperson of India's Ministry of External Affairs told journalists in New Delhi on Thursday that New Delhi was monitoring the developments in the Red Sea.
I think there was some communication regarding this task force or the operation, but I would have to get back to you regarding any specific development on that issue, because I'm not aware of whether there has been any specific invitation or we have been asked to join or we have agreed to join. As I said, this is a new initiative and we'll have to get back to you as soon as I have something to convey on that. But let me emphasize that we have been part of efforts to ensure the safe transit of ships in the Arabian Sea, and we value the free movement of commercial shipping.
An Indian Navy warship, INS Kochi, which was on anti-piracy patrol in the Gulf of Aden, was diverted to render assistance to a piracy incident on board a Malta-flagged vessel on December 14th. The hijacked vessel entered the territorial waters of Somalia on December 17. The INS Kochi ensured that an injured crew member was released by pirates in the early hours of 18 December for further medical treatment. The Indian Navy has since deployed another indigenous guided missile destroyer in the region. India has joined a new land and maritime economic corridor linking it to Europe via West Asia. The India-West Asia-Europe Economic Corridor was launched on the margins of the 2023 G20 summit held in New Delhi in September. It offers an alternate rail and shipping route to the Suez Canal via the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan and Israel. The time of transporting goods from India to Europe would reduce by 40% and the cost by 30%. Bureau Report, DD India.
The Israeli army released videos of its ground operations in Beit Hanun. The Israeli forces signaled that they were widening their ground offensive. Meanwhile, the UN Security Council diplomats further delayed a vote on a resolution to increase humanitarian aid into Gaza.
Israeli forces on Thursday released a video showing destruction of a tunnel inside Hamas's elite quarter in Gaza. The terror infrastructure included a large network of strategic underground tunnels which connects hideout and bureaus belonging to senior military and political leadership of Hamas. The destruction comes amid Israel continues to deepen their ground offensive in northern and southern Gaza.
Our forces continue to deepen their ground incursion in northern and southern Gaza. Since the end of the pause in fighting in the ground operation in Gaza, our forces killed more than 2,000 terrorists from air, sea and land.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced that Israel's military operation in Gaza will not stop until it achieves its goals.
We are fighting until victory. We will not stop the war until we achieve all its goal, destroying Hamas and releasing all our hostages.
Meanwhile, UN Security Council diplomats further delayed a vote on a resolution to increase humanitarian aid into Gaza. The UN vote was delayed despite the United States saying it can now support an amended proposal that would demand that Israel and Hamas allow the use of all available routes for humanitarian deliveries.
Meanwhile, Russia's President Vladimir Putin held a telephone call with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas on Friday. This to discuss ways to de-escalate the conflict in Gaza as well as humanitarian relief efforts. The Kremlin said that the two men agreed that Abbas would visit Russia on a date to be agreed upon. And my colleague Trent Murray joins us from Tel Aviv for more. Trent, Reports suggest that Israel is widening its counter-offensive on the Hamas with a new push into central Gaza on Friday. What more can you share about it?
Yeah, that's right. The Israeli Defense Forces sent out a message to residents in around 5 neighbourhoods of central Gaza, telling them to evacuate further south towards Khan Yunis. Now, that would indicate that they are looking to expand their ground operations. It comes as they say that they have gained operational control now of several regions in the north, and they say that they're going to continue to push forward to achieve those goals set by the government, which includes freeing the 129 hostages or so still being held there by Hamas, but also to eliminate Hamas entirely. But we know that there has been heavy firefights and skirmishes between the two sides. There were airstrikes overnight on Rafah, right in the far south, and also on a refugee camp. And we also know 2 Israeli soldiers were killed, a 31-year-old reservist and a 21-year-old soldier at officer school. So look, both sides showing little sign of slowing down here with this conflict. There has been also quite a few skirmishes today on the northern border with Lebanon. The IDF says that 20 rockets were fired into southern Israel. They shelled the launch sites in response, and they also say that they deployed jets from the Israeli Air Force to strike military infrastructure in southern Lebanon.
Trend reports also suggest that the US might support a UN Security Council resolution calling for humanitarian access into Gaza, but there is no consensus on a ceasefire yet. How is Israel viewing the developments at the UN?
Well, we know that this resolution was actually due to be voted on Monday, and then it kept getting delayed for 24 hours. We're expecting it to once again come to the floor of the Security Council today, or Friday, local time in New York. What makes it different today, I think, is the US, as you said, is now saying publicly that they are comfortable with some of the language of the text. There's been a lot of negotiation and untangling of the wording, but effectively what the resolution calls for is a major surge of humanitarian aid into Gaza to try and help people that are short of food, medicine, water. Where the sticking point was, we understand, for the Israelis was that the original resolution called for the UN to take over exclusively inspection of aid going into Gaza. Right now, Israel is doing that. They say they want to check those trucks of aid to make sure weapons aren't being smuggled into Hamas. They are not going to give up that oversight right very easily. And so I think what we found here now is a bit of a middle ground, if you will, that the Americans are happy to sign off on, which says the UN can put an inspector there, a coordinator on the ground to see how things are faring, but the Israelis will still have the right to check the aid going in. As I say, for them, it's a very important security matter as they continue their ground operation against those Hamas militants.
Indeed. On that note, Trent Murray in Tel Aviv, thank you for your inputs. Appreciate it. Still to come on DD India News Hour. Former Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan files nomination for the 2024 election after court grants him bail. US President Joe Biden signs an executive order to expand the US's ability to target financial institutions located outside Russia that help the Kremlin's war machine. And the Netherlands decide to send an initial 18 F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine.
Sir, try berry pulao. Too good. Good, no? Hey, why are you giving him such looks? Ignore tips and use your own mind before you order. Lots of people give unsolicited stock tips. It can be dangerous. Study the company and the risk associated. Invest only after analysis.
Do you know there's an investor protection fund for investors, IPF, but if your trade isn't executed on the exchange or if it's some guaranteed return scheme, then even IPF will not be able to help you.
And what if your broker becomes a defaulter then?
In that case, IPF can provide you with compensation.
Where did you learn this?
NSE's website.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Ahead of the general election scheduled to take place in February next year, Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan got relief from the country's top court in a case related to an alleged leak of state secrets. His deputy, Shah Mahmood Qureshi, got bail from the court too. On Friday, Imran Khan filed his nomination papers for the election from his prison cell.
Pakistan is gearing up for high-voltage elections campaign. Friday saw former Prime Minister Imran Khan submitting nomination papers for the upcoming elections from prison cell in Adiala jail. The day also saw former Prime Minister getting bail from the Supreme Court in a case related to an alleged leak of state secrets. Along with Imran Khan, his deputy party leader Shah Mahmood Qureshi bailed subject to surety bonds of 1 million Pakistani rupees each. Both were indicted earlier this month. However, despite Friday's bail, Khan still remains disqualified from contesting national elections by virtue of corruption conviction, which a High Court refused to suspend on Thursday. On the other hand, Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz says former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif is a candidate to become Prime Minister for a fourth term. The vote is scheduled to take place on February 8. Country's Election Commission on Friday extended the deadline for candidates to file nomination papers for national election by 2 days. Pakistan has been confronted with a number of challenges such as corruption, terrorism, poverty and human rights abuse. Hundreds of people from Balochistan carried out rallies and demonstrations demanding the release of those arrested in Islamabad. Baloch activist Maharang Baloch slammed Islamabad for arrest and violence.
हमारा मुतालबा ये है कि यूएन की वर्किंग ग्रुप के सदारत में एक फैक्ट फाइंडिंग कमेटी बनाई जाए जो बलूचिस्तान में होने वाले इंसानी हकूक़ के पामालियों की रिपोर्ट पेश करे.
The Islamabad police allegedly used excessive force and rounded up the Baloch protesters who converged in the capital to stage a protest demonstration on Wednesday. Bureau Report, DD India.
All right, moving to North America now. U.S. President Joe Biden has signed an executive order giving the Treasury Department the authority to target financial institutions that facilitate Russia's efforts to bolster its defense industry. The new sanctions authority is meant to gum up the Kremlin's push to restock the Russian military's depleted arsenal after nearly 22 months of fighting in Ukraine. Russia has already lost more than 13,000 pieces of equipment, including tanks, drones and missile systems. This according to a U.S. assessment. The White House said Biden signed the order Friday morning local time. The White House says the executive order, part of a wider U.S. crackdown on sanctions evasion, also gives Washington, D.C. the ability to broaden import bans of certain Russian goods, such as seafood and diamonds. The U.S. and its allies, including the European Union and the U.K., imposed sanctions on Russia after the February 2022 invasion of Ukraine and have continued to ratchet up pressure on Moscow, targeting Russian President Vladimir Putin, the financial sector and dozens of oligarchs. In more news from the U.S., President Joe Biden on Friday said that he would reduce the prison terms of 11 people serving decades-long sentences for non-violent drug charges and pardon some marijuana possession offenses. The White House says Biden is commuting the sentence of 11 people incarcerated for non-violent drug offenses, including some serving a mandatory life sentence. Biden said that the actions were meant to address disparities in sentencing that have long taken a toll on the black community and to expand his commitment to marijuana reform. The US has less than 5% of the world's population, but a fifth of its prisoners. A disproportionate share are people of color, who make up a sizable chunk of Biden's base of support. A Biden-Trump rematch in the 2024 U.S. presidential election seems increasingly likely. But both men will go into the race lacking popularity. So much so that some polls suggest as much as a fifth of the electorate falls into the so-called double haters category, those who are disillusioned by both Biden and Trump. DD India's Nick Harper has more from Washington, D.C.
In U.S. politics, two parties dominate, Joe Biden's Democrats and Donald Trump's Republicans. But a growing group of voters are looking for something different.
I declare my independence. I declare my independence.
I declare my independence.
It's that independent spirit and dislike of establishment politics that some outsider candidates are hoping to tap into.
I'm here to declare myself an independent candidate.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the nephew of the late former President John F. Kennedy, is running without the backing of a party, as is progressive academic and activist Cornel West.
We got a choice between neo-fascists like Brother Trump or milquetoast neoliberals like Brother Biden.
A bipartisan group known as No Labels is also looking for a high-profile candidate to mount a presidential challenge, all of which could spell trouble for Biden and Trump, pulling votes away from them in what is expected to be a tight race.
There are some lapsed Republicans who don't like Trump, but also maybe don't like Biden and probably disapprove of his job performance. You know, I can imagine some of those folks going into the no labels camp. And I think this is why Democrats are much more worried about no labels than Republicans are, because the feeling is that the Republican base is sort of more solid behind Trump.
But to secure votes, these independent candidates first need to get on the ballot in each of the 50 US states. And that requires thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of signatures from supporters. These outsider challengers appear to pose more of a threat to incumbent Joe Biden, but opinions could change in the coming months.
When it comes to the polls ahead of the election, people are much more likely to say that they're considering a third-party candidate and much less likely to vote when Election Day comes. People get cold feet and they decide at the very end that they don't want to waste their vote.
If all of this wasn't already enough to make getting into the White House practically a mathematical impossibility, there's also the small matter of history. Importantly, an independent candidate has never won in a modern US presidential election. But if they manage to win over just a few thousand disaffected voters in key battleground states, they might do enough to alter the outcome, preventing an establishment Democrat or Republican from winning in November. Nick Harper in Washington, reporting for DD India.
Meanwhile, a U.S. daily has reported that Donald Trump had urged two Michigan election officials not to certify Democrat Joe Biden's victory in the state following the 2020 presidential election, personally calling them in a pressure campaign reminiscent of his Georgia tactics. In a 17th November 2020 phone call, the then-president told two fellow Republicans on the Wayne County Board of Canvassers not to sign the state election certification, saying that they would look terrible and must fight for our country. This according to recordings of the call reviewed by the Daily. The reported call comes as Trump, the frontrunner for the Republican 2024 nomination, faces federal and state criminal charges over allegations that he conspired to overturn the 2020 presidential election result in an effort that culminated in a violent attack on the U.S. legislature building. And now to an update on the Ukraine-Russia conflict. Ukraine on Friday claimed that it shot down 24 of the 28 attack drones launched by Russia overnight. At least 2 injuries were reported in the capital, Kyiv. Meanwhile, Russia's defense ministry said their forces intercepted 5 Ukrainian drones south of Moscow on Friday. And DD India's Megumi Lim has more from Kyiv. Take a listen.
Loud explosions were heard overnight in the capital as air defense systems worked to intercept drones launched by Russia. Ukraine's Air Force said its air defenses shot down 24 out of 28 attack drones across the country. But one drone hit a high-rise apartment block in Kiev's Solomiansky district, causing a fire on the upper floors. 2 people were injured from the attack and one is being treated in hospital. The building is located a few hundred meters from a maternity hospital. Officials said drone fragments also fell on a house under construction in the Darnietsky district, setting it on fire. Drone debris also fell on an apartment building south of the city center. This was the 6th such attack on Kiev this month. Megumi Lim in Kiev reporting for DD India.
And staying in Europe, Poland's foreign minister visited Kiev on Friday to present an aid package for Ukraine on his first official foreign visit. Ukraine and Poland said that they were ready to try to resolve problematic issues in their relations, suffering especially by a Polish truckers' blockade of border crossings. The pledge emerged from a meeting in Kyiv between Ukraine's Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba and Poland's counterpart, who was on his first official trip abroad. Ukraine has counted Poland as one of its closest European Union allies as it has battled an almost 2-year-old Russian invasion. Poland has given Ukraine humanitarian and military assistance and taken in millions of Ukrainian refugees. But relations have been overshadowed by a protest blockade of several border crossings by Polish truck drivers and what Kyiv has seen as a lack of initiative by the now former Polish nationalist government to resolve the problem. The Netherlands has decided to prepare for an initial delivery of 18 F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine. The Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte said that delivery of F-16s is one of the most important elements of the agreements made on military support for Ukraine. The Netherlands also extended support to ensure that an agreement is reached at the European Council meeting in February 2024 on financial support from the European Union. Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez and the leader of the Conservative opposition agreed on Friday to ask the European Commission to mediate an end to a 5-year political stalemate over appointments to the body that names judges in the country. All 20 judges that sit on the General Council for the Judiciary must be picked to then in turn renew the mandates of a third of the country's judges that have expired. However, the appointments to the General Council require a 3/5 supermajority in Parliament, which can only be reached through a deal between the country's 2 main parties, Sanchez's Socialist Party and the PP. Tributes have been pouring in a day after a shooting at the Charles University in the Czech Republic's capital, Prague, that claimed at least 14 lives. Czech Prime Minister Petr Fiala joined mourners at a memorial in the city. Earlier, the country's president declared 23rd December as a day of mourning. The Charles University has cancelled all lectures and events as people gathered on the campus to remember the victims. Meanwhile, the police tightened security around schools and other public buildings across the country. The last French troops deployed in Niger to help fight a decade-old Islamist insurgency in the Sahel left the country on Friday, sealing a withdrawal that has dealt a further blow to France's influence in West Africa. Army officers who ceased fire in Niger in July made France's military exit one of their key demands, echoing the juntas in neighboring Burkina Faso and Mali, who severed long-standing security ties with France after coups in 2020 and 2022. After initially pushing back, France's President Emmanuel Macron said in September that 1,500 troops would pull out of Niger by the end of the year. The decision followed a full withdrawal from Mali completed in August 2022 and the end of military cooperation with Burkina Faso in February, even as those countries face worsening attacks from Islamist insurgents. A document marking the official end of France's military engagement with Niger was signed by both parties in the capital, Niamey, on Friday. And now take a look at some other stories making news around the world. Norway has begun their delivery of F-16s to Romania that were used in the Norwegian Air Force. These deliveries will breathe new life into the Romanian Air Force. Romania agreed in 2022 to buy 32 second-hand F-16s from Norway. Numerous migrants traverse the Rio Grande from Mexico to Texas. This comes in the wake of a discussion between U.S. President Joe Biden and his Mexican counterpart, acknowledging the imperative for heightened border enforcement because of unprecedented attempts at crossing, causing disruptions in trade. Revelers gathered to celebrate the winter solstice at Stonehenge in Britain's county of Wiltshire on Friday, marking the shortest day of the year in the Northern Hemisphere. Stonehenge, which is thought to date back 5,000 years, is a circle of standing stones in the southern county of Wiltshire. And still to come on DD India News Hour. A discussion on the Indian Navy's role as first responder for ensuring the safety of merchant shipping in West Asia. India's Met Department uses artificial intelligence to improve weather forecasting. And 10 black tigers have been found in the eastern Indian state of Odisha.
Sir, try berry pulao. Too good. Good, no? Hey, why are you giving him such looks? Ignore tips and use your own mind before you order. Lots of people give unsolicited stock tips. It can be dangerous. Study the company and the risk associated. Invest only after analyzing.
Soch kar, samajh kar, invest kar. Do you know there's an investor protection fund for investors, IPF, but if your trade isn't executed on the exchange or if it's some guaranteed return scheme, then even IPF will not be able to help you.
And what if your broker becomes a defaulter then?
In that case, IPF can provide you with compensation.
Where did you learn this?
NSE's website.
Soch kar, samajh kar, invest kar.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. A quick recap of the headlines. President Emmanuel Macron of France to be the chief guest for India's 75th Republic Day celebrations on 26th January. 2 Indian Navy warships conduct anti-piracy patrols in the Gulf of Aden as attacks on commercial ships in the region threaten global economy. And a Pakistan court grants bail to the country's former Prime Minister Imran Khan in a case related to an alleged leak of state secrets. Khan files nomination for the 2024 national election. All right, going back to the top story, the U.S. launched Operation Prosperity Guardian 2 days ago to carry out joint patrols in the Red Sea waters near Yemen. The crisis has grown out of the war between Israel and Hamas. The Iran-backed Houthis have been targeting commercial shipping lanes in the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden. India says it is monitoring the situation very closely. Meanwhile, Indian Navy warships are rendering assistance to the mariners at sea as a first responder in the region. Joining me is Mr. Pinag Ranjan Chakraborty. Mr. Chakraborty is a former Indian ambassador to Thailand and High Commissioner to Bangladesh. He's a former Secretary Economic Relations in India's Ministry of External Affairs. The former Deputy Chief of Mission at the Indian Embassy in Israel between 1995 and 99. He has also served in the Indian diplomatic missions in Egypt and Saudi Arabia as well. Ambassador Chakraborty, welcome to DD India News Hour. I have 4 or 5 fundamental issues to ask of you. First, 8 of the 20 countries in the US-led patrols in the Red Sea have declined to be publicly named. Others have said that they would rather be a part of existing naval agreements rather than the new US-led operation. Now, the lack of details and clarity over what countries are doing has added to confusion for shipping companies. What do you make of the reluctance on the part of some countries to join this US-led initiative?
Well, one thing would be not to be seen as if siding with Israel, because the lowering sort of credibility of Israel is one factor. And anything new requires a far more, deeper kind of consideration. There are already, patrols, etc., that have been in place because of the Somali piracy and other things. So this would be, but this is political. This is not simply piracy.
Right.
Hence, there would be some reluctance in sort of joining up to the new U.S. initiative. But individually, I think each country will be doing what it can in terms of preventing international shipping being, attacked and interdicted.
Ambassador Chakravarti, looking at it from New Delhi's perspective now, India says it is monitoring the developments very closely. An Indian official told journalists that he is not aware of whether India has been asked to join or whether India has agreed to join the US-led patrols. But the Indian Navy is helping commercial shipping companies deal with piracy. How do you see India's role as a first responder in the region?
India has always played that role, because in the Indian Ocean, India does provide that kind of facility, including disaster management and relief, etc. So this would be also part of that effort. And I don't think this is anything new that India is doing. And India has deployed earlier the Navy in the Gulf of Aden and other places. But as I said, this was against the piracy. Now, this is a different thing, that Houthis are attacking shipping. They claim they're attacking shipping which are linked to Israel. But then this has created a problem for other shipping companies, and they're pondering whether to go through the Suez Canal or not, which is going to affect trade.
As you correctly said, Ambassador, the issue here is, as of now, is the Houthi attacks on commercial shipping in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. Again, looking at it from a New Delhi's perspective, should India join the US-led Operation Prosperity Guardian? What are the pros and cons of joining or not joining it?
Well, I think India can play an independent role. It's not necessary for India to join any grouping, that too led by the United States, because that automatically gives it a geopolitical coloring, because the US has been supporting Israel very, very closely. So I think India would probably be better off playing an independent role in coordination, of course, with the other countries who have been there and who have the same objective.
And finally, talking about shipping lanes and alternative shipping lanes as well, a narrative soon after the 7th October Hamas attacks on Israel was that it was meant to derail the India-West Asia-Europe economic corridor, which includes Israel. Now, today, after the Houthi attacks on ships in the Red Sea, the narrative has again turned to the virtues of the India-West Asia-Europe economic corridor as an alternative to the Suez Canal shipping route. So clearly, there are strong arguments to be made in favor of the corridor, economically, politically, and commercially speaking. But what will it take to get this corridor off the ground?
Well, now it's a bit early to say, but you're right that the narrative has changed, and now they are seeing the virtues of the corridor. But these things happen because of the war between Israel and Hamas. This narrative has changed, and I think when the war ends, finally, it has to end someday. The corridor will be again back on the menu and back on the agenda, and it will be worked upon. And I think elements of the corridor already exist. Naval, what shall I say, the trade corridors, etc. It's the land part that would require more work.
All right, on that note, Ambassador Chakravarti, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your thoughts and insights with our viewers at home and abroad. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Right, and moving on, India's actions against climate change, its concrete, result-oriented efforts have paved the way for using artificial intelligence or AI to build climate models that would help improve weather forecasting. Take a look at the next report.
Extreme weather events have killed nearly 3,000 people this year. Global warming has triggered more intense clashes of weather systems in India in recent years, leading to increase in extreme weather conditions. India's Met Department has been utilizing artificial intelligence for public alerts on heat waves and diseases like malaria and plans to expand weather observatories, which will offer data at the village level for potentially more precise forecasts. Renewed focus on gathering high-resolution data and incorporating AI into traditional models will aid emerging technologies that will help achieve its sustainable development goals. AI-based systems can predict harsh impacts of climate change and events with higher levels of accuracy by giving accurate data to predict events such as rise in sea levels, cyclones, storms, less or more rainfall, even glacial outbursts. While technological evolution continues to aid regular efforts to achieve net zero emissions, climate tech investments could see a significant rise in the future. Bureau Report, DD India.
The Shimli-Pal Tiger Reserve in the eastern Indian state of Odisha is a haven for the big cat. 16 tigers have been documented there. 10 of whom adorn the distinctive dark stripe pattern of the black tiger. Take a look at the next report.
In the heart of Odisha's Shimli-Pal Tiger Reserve, a rare phenomenon unfolds. The elusive black tigers. Revealed in the latest report to Parliament, only 10 of these majestic melanistic tigers exist in the entire nation. Minister Ashwani Kumar Chaubey states that Shimli-Pal is the exclusive haven with 16 tigers documented, 10 adorned with a dark strip. The 2022 Pan-India Tiger Estimation Exercise unveils this captivating secret. Melanism, a result of the heightened melanin levels, gives these creatures an ethereal allure. The Ministry of Environment emphasizes their conservation commitment, while the National Tiger Conservation Authority issues a strategic directive for the rehabilitation of these mesmerizing beings. Financial support is extended through the ongoing centrally sponsored scheme of integrated development of wildlife habitats to the Shimli-Pal Tiger Reserve. This funding is allocated for a spectrum of conservation initiatives, including the safeguarding of tigers, fostering awareness regarding tiger and wildlife conservation, habitat management, protection measures, eco-development, human resource and infrastructure development. These resources play a crucial role in sustaining the delicate balance of Shimli-Pal's ecosystem, encompassing voluntary village relocation and a holistic approach to wildlife preservation. Tapas Bhattacharya's report for DD India.
India's President Draupadi Murmu hosted at-home reception at Rashtrapati Nilayam in the southern city of Secunderabad in the state of Telangana on Friday. The gathering witnessed the presence of notable personalities including Telangana Governor Tamilisai Soundararajan and Chief Minister A. Revant Reddy along with ministerial counterparts. This event marked President Murmu's southern sojourn, which commenced on 19th December. Amid preparations for the inauguration day of Ram Mandir in Ayodhya next month, people all over the country are delighted and eagerly waiting to visit the temple. While speaking to DD India, a few locals from Kolkata said that they are really happy that the day is finally coming for the opening of the much-awaited temple.
Actually, reaction, I am highly excited, and like all other Indians, all other countrymen, I am highly excited that Ram Mandir is going to be established, because it is our foundation. It is our Indian civilization, base of our Indian civilization.
We are so proud of that at last the reconstruction of the Ram Mandir was going on, and now it is built. So, as a common Indian, we are so happy for that after our long cherished dream was that.
It is very interesting to note that Ram Janmabhoomi and the Ram Temple will be inaugurated on 24th January, and that is a landmark for the Indian history.
The Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra is being undertaken across India with the aim to attain saturation of flagship government schemes through ensuring that the benefits of these schemes reach all the targeted beneficiaries in a time-bound manner. The yatra reached the district of Rajouri in the northern Indian Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir. The impact of the yatra can be seen from the large number of people thronging the venues and availing themselves of the benefits of government schemes. The information, education, communication vans have emerged as a dynamic tool as they traverse various blocks of the district. Some beneficiaries share their progressive stories under the segment Meri Kahani, Meri Zubani. UNESCO's Pre-Versailles 2023 has acknowledged Bengaluru's Kempegowda International Airport Terminal 2 as one of the globally acclaimed airports for its exceptional aesthetics. The airport has been distinguished with the esteemed Special Prize for an Interior, signifying its unparalleled design, and stands as the exclusive Indian airport to achieve this prestigious recognition. And now take a look at some other stories making news in India. Commencement of preparations for the Republic Day parade on 26 January was marked by the initiation of rehearsals along Kartavya Path in India's capital, New Delhi. The significant undertaking reflected the dedication and meticulous planning integral to orchestrating this grand event. Artistically crafted key rings inspired by Hindu deity Lord Ram and the Ram Temple are gaining widespread attention among tourists in anticipation of the grand consecration ceremony scheduled for 22nd January 2024 at the revered Ram Janmabhoomi Temple in the northern Indian city of Ayodhya. Chief of Indian Naval Staff Admiral R. Harikumar visited INS Kadmath in Thailand during the ongoing 8th Indian Ocean Naval Symposium Conclave of Chiefs 2023. Admiral Kumar interacted with the ship's crew and commended them on its successful long-range deployment. The Indian government has directed states and union territories to remain vigilant and exercise heightened awareness in response to a surge in COVID-19 cases. The Ministry of Health in India has advised the public to exercise caution without succumbing to panic. And still to come on DD India News Hour. India's Youth Affairs and Sports Minister Anurag Thakur launches the official logo and mascot for Khelo India Youth Games 2024. And preparations for the season opening Grand Slam of 2024, the Australian Open, are on in full swing.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts. We demystify complex social, political, and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Time now for sports updates. India's Sports Minister Anurag Thakur unveiled the official logo, jersey, and mascot and torch for the 6th edition of Khelo India Youth Games in the South Indian city of Chennai on Friday. The 2024 edition of the Khelo India Youth Games is slated to take place from 19th January to 31st in 4 cities of Tamil Nadu. More than 5,000 athletes from all over the country will take part in the Olympic, non-Olympic as well as indigenous games at the KIYG 2024.
The official logo, jersey, mascot, torch and theme song for the 6th edition of Khelo India Youth Games was launched in Tamil Nadu on Friday in the presence of Union Minister of Youth Affairs and Sports Anurag Singh Thakur and Sports Minister of Tamil Nadu Udayanidhi Stalin. The event was graced by renowned sports icons such as chess grandmaster Vishwanathan Anand, Tokyo Olympian fencer Bhavani Devi, badminton star Joshna Chinnappa, among other esteemed personalities. The 6th edition of the Khelo India Youth Games is set to take place from January 19 to 31, 2024 in Tamil Nadu. 4 cities of Tamil Nadu, namely Chennai, Trichy, Madurai and Coimbatore will host the games. Squash has been added in the games for the first time. Silambam, a form of Indian martial arts, has been included in the program as a demo sport. Speaking on the occasion, Anurag Singh Thakur hailed Khelo India program and government for making a strong sports system.
The field of sports, I can say, yahi samay hai, sahi samay hai. So please come forward, pick up a sport and do well. And for the young athletes who stand before me today, remember this, Khelo India Youth Games is not just about winning medals. It's about pushing your limits, embracing the spirit of fair play, and forging friendships that will last a lifetime. Let your talent shine. Let your determination roar. Let your performance inspire millions across the country.
The previous 5 editions of the Youth Games have been held in Delhi, Pune, Guwahati, Panchkula and Bhopal. Haryana and Maharashtra have dominated the game since its inception. The 5th edition took place in Madhya Pradesh, where Maharashtra topped the medal tally with 161 medals. Haryana followed it up with 2nd place, while Madhya Pradesh ended in 3rd place. The Khelo India program by the Government of India is an initiative to revive the sports culture in India at the grassroots level by building a strong framework for all sports played in our country and establish India as a great sporting nation. Ritesh Ranjan's report, DD India, Chennai.
To tennis now, preparations for the 2024 Australian Open are in full swing. The tennis court lines in Melbourne Park's Rod Laver Arena got repainted and large new shade structures were installed in Garden Square. Defending champion Novak Djokovic will bid for a record-extending 11th title and 25th Grand Slam crown overall. World number 2 Aryna Sabalenka will defend her title in the women's singles, which will see former champions Naomi Osaka, Caroline Wozniacki and Angelique Kerber making their Melbourne Park returns after time away from the tour to have children. The Australian Open will switch to a Sunday start and be held over 15 days instead of 14 for the first time next year in a bid to avoid night matches finishing in the early hours of the morning. The 2024 tournament will run from 14th to 28th of January. To football now, the European clubs that proposed forming the Breakaway League, which sparked widespread protests among angry fans, had been threatened with sanctions by UEFA if they went ahead with the plan, leading to 9 clubs pulling out. A ruling from the European Court of Justice in Luxembourg said world and European governing bodies FIFA and UEFA had abused a dominant position by threatening the Super League clubs and their players with sanctions and exclusion from major competitions. The European Court also said that the rules that demand prior approval for inter-club football projects were unlawful. The court called FIFA and UEFA's rules relating to the exploitation of media rights harmful to clubs, media companies and fans alike. Within hours, a new European Super League proposal had been released. Indo-Canadian filmmaker Nisha Pahuja's latest project, To Kill a Tiger, has been shortlisted in the documentary feature film category for the 2024 Oscar Awards. The film is set in the eastern Indian state of Jharkhand and tracks the journey of a family to find justice for their teenage daughter who was sexually assaulted by a group of men. The documentary, which is set entirely in India, premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival last year and won the Amplify Voices Award for Best Canadian Feature Film as well. 5 elephants donned the Santa Claus costume as they visited an elementary school in Thailand. The elephants handed out gifts to the students such as dolls, toys and balloons. 2,000 school students welcomed the elephants with song and dance. The large land mammals also handed out gifts to the students such as balloons and offering them to touch their noses as well. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of DD India News Hour. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. You can also check out our website ddindia.co.in. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. From all of us here in New Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.